Good evening. Thanks for joining us. This is NTD Business, and I'm Paul Graney. GameStop fell over 40% today after surging for the past few days. We talked to Daniel Akai about the latest frenzy and what could be behind it. South Dakota leads the way in unemployment. We talked to someone from the state's Chamber of Commerce to see what they're doing right. Texas Democrats ask Biden to rethink his suspension of new oil and gas leases. They say it's bad for the economy. And Facebook hires a member of Biden's transition team. He'll be the vice president of the company's new civil rights organization. So GameStop and the Reddit army are still the big news of the day. People are betting GameStop, AMC, and some other stocks will rise, while some hedge funds are betting against them. And the hedge funds have been losing big. GameStop's share price was up 80% again today. But then it fell dramatically. It's now down 44% for the day after online trading apps started blocking users from trading the stock. A lot of anger, understandably, coming from people saying the block is an attack on the free market, it's market manipulation, it's discrimination against the little guy. Senator Ted Cruz and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez agreeing the Financial Services Committee should meet to discuss it. But on the flip side, can what happened on Reddit and all the hype that was built up there be considered collusion itself? Can it be called market manipulation? Like the Redditors are accusing the financial system of. GameStop as a company didn't suddenly become 17 times more valuable overnight, but Redditors banding together to affect the stock price did make some people a lot of money, just saying, and almost bankrupt hedge funds that may or may not be doing bad things. And so nothing like this has ever happened before and on such a large scale. So was it really only the stay-at-home investors behind it? I asked Daniel Akai at the Tresses hedge fund. Could there have been professional institutions involved in the short squeeze too?
I think it's very difficult that even a concerted effort from a website with a little bit less than 2 million subscribers is going to trigger the movement of 197 million shares in a day in a stock that starts at $50 and moves to up to $300. No, I think that what we're seeing is probably a romanticized version of collusion, saying that it's basically the vengeance of retail investors against Wall Street, when in reality what we probably have is a very evident action to trigger a massive short squeeze on a stock. And what needs to be addressed, or at least investigated, is whether this calls for an investigation of collusion, or whether there is some big hand behind this allegedly romantic view that it's the small investors going against Wall Street. Fundamentally, because if you think about it, the market in the last years has been absolutely booming. You cannot say that small investors have been sort of left behind because of Wall Street machinations. Now, I think it's pretty evident.
And then some people online were asking, what's the difference between all of these retail investors coming together and trying to invest money and make money versus a hedge fund who takes money from various different people and tries to do the same, no?
Yeah, no, there is no difference if there is transparency and there is a differentiated, not concerted strategy between all of those investors. I think that is obviously no problem. But any small investor or anybody that's watching us today that has been offended or that has been enraged at some point about concerted actions of a couple of hedge funds or a couple of investment funds in the past, obviously should be equally enraged about this if that is what has happened. Because, you cannot just think that this is positive because it's made the stock go up. What if all of these people had gotten together to make the stock go down 100 or 200, 100% and lead the stock to zero. You see, I think that what's happening right now is that the same people and the same media that criticized hedge funds in 2008, 2009, are now hailing the actions of small investors just because they're small. But if it's collusion, and if the reprehensible actions have been taken in a situation that is unclear and untransparent, then obviously it would be as bad as if some funds got together and had a few meetings behind closed doors and decided to pump and dump a stock. Think about it. When we think about those inside sellers or insider trading, think of people that are trying to pump and dump a stock. Well, obviously there is a risk that what is happening right now with GameStop and other similar actions is pretty similar to those illegal actions in other cases.
And then you're a great guy, great family guy, and I believe all of our viewers, after watching you for so long, would agree. How do you feel when you hear so much vitriol being tossed towards the financial system in general, just blanket at hedge funds this and financial system this? How do you feel as an insider?
I wrote a book called Life in the Financial Markets, in which I tell people that, the markets are all of us, our pensions, our savings, our what we do every day to try to save some money and make it grow for our children or for our families. Are there people that misuse the tools that exist in the market? There are, but that's why there is gradation. What you cannot just do is to simply go out and consider that everybody in the financial system is conducting illegal or reprehensible activities. I think that what you need to understand is that the vast majority of the financial industry, what it's basically just doing every day is trying to get a little return for your savings.
Daniel, really appreciate the analysis as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And the online trading platform Robinhood just announced it will re-allow limited buys of stocks from GameStop and AMC and the others from tomorrow. And the U.S. economy shrank 3.5% last year. It's the first annual GDP decline since the Great Recession and the worst performance since World War II. But the Commerce Department says the economy grew 4% in the last quarter. And in other news, initial jobless claims this week dropped to about 850,000. Still historically high, but better than economists had expected. But South Dakota is one state that really has been able to keep people working. Last week, its unemployment rate fell to below pre-pandemic levels. Wow, it is up a little again this week. So I talked to the state's Chamber of Commerce to see what they're doing right.
I think there's a couple things that have helped us tremendously. One, we have some natural advantages. We have 880,000 people in a state that's 400 miles wide and 200 miles. Social distancing is a natural occurrence here, and so that helps. Much was made of our governor's refusal to order places closed. Now, to be honest with you, we did what everybody else was doing. We closed events, we closed schools, we canceled conventions, we canceled concerts, so we took those steps. But we've been allowed to kind of find our way. So we have restaurants that are 3/4 capacity, but they're open. Tables are further apart. Some of them are just doing delivery and doing fairly well with that. So I think, be safe, use your head. A lot of debate has worked to our benefit as well.
And how about the economy there? Are you guys in a pretty good spot compared to somewhere here like New York City?
I think we are. South Dakota's economy is much more diverse than it was, say, 50 years ago or even 30 years ago. Agriculture still very important, both crops and livestock. We have a manufacturing base with 1,100 manufacturers. We process food. We make huge signboards that are in stadiums. We make trailers, kitchen cabinets. We have 42,000 people in manufacturing. The financial sector is very significant. Health systems. We have two health systems in our largest city. Healthcare is a thriving industry. So we have a fairly balanced economy that's helped us be stable through a number of recessions.
And have the businesses there been satisfied? Have they accepted the different restrictions you put in place? Was there dialogue, etc.?
Everybody's been sharing best practices. I think a responsible advocate has to give the government, federal government, credit for the PPE loans, the kind of money that they've moved in to help stabilize. South Dakota received $4 billion. We have a $55 billion economy. That's 7% of our economy. So that has to be kind of recognized. The whole country watched Smithfield Foods get caught by this, but they've done what they need to do to keep their people safe. So you see barriers, plastic shields, people wear masks. So we went through that same learning curve like everybody else, but we've emerged careful.
Mr. Owen, really appreciate the update. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the House will move forward next week to pass a new relief bill. She says while she hopes Republicans will back President Biden's package, she says Democrats are ready to act on their own. One Republican lawmaker criticized Biden's proposal, called it a big government takeover of the U.S. economy. It includes money for vaccination, $1,400 stimulus checks, as well as a $15 minimum wage. And a handful of Texas Democrats say they're concerned about Biden's move to suspend new oil and gas leases. Now they're urging him to rescind the order.
4 House Democrats from Texas are urging President Biden to rescind his executive order halting new oil and gas leases on federal land and water. Biden signed it on Wednesday. The White House said it's part of his effort to tackle the climate crisis. It was expected that Republicans and fossil fuel industry leaders would criticize Biden's order, but it was not expected that some Democrats would criticize it too. The 4 congressmen called Biden's order far-reaching, and they argued it would lead to job losses, squeeze budgetary revenues, undercut American energy independence, and hurt an already suffering community. They said that in light of the economic impact of the pandemic, now is not the time to jeopardize American jobs, and they called on Biden to revoke the order. Biden's early steps after taking office represent a sharp break from former President Trump, who pushed American energy independence by maximizing domestic fossil fuel production. Under Trump, the U.S. became the world's top producer of oil and maintained its position as the top global producer of natural gas.
And on Wall Street, major indexes clawed back some of the ground they lost on Wednesday and closed higher today. The Dow rose 300 points to 0.99%, S&P 500 gained nearly 37 points to 0.98%, the Nasdaq added about 67 points or 0.5%. Markets really down yesterday if you remember. Besides the GameStop and the Reddit saga, investors also watching company earnings. Over 100 firms are reporting results. We have full analysis for you tomorrow. Treasury yields today rallied from 3-week lows, oil dropped slightly, and gold also fell today. And Facebook. It's hired a member from Biden's transition team. He'll be the Facebook's VP of Civil Rights, a new Deputy General Counsel. NTD's Patrick Hayden has the details.
Facebook has hired Biden transition team member Roy Austin as Vice President of Civil Rights and Deputy General Counsel. He said, "I'm excited to join Facebook at this moment when there is a national and global awakening happening around civil rights. Technology plays a role in nearly every part of our lives, and it's important that it be used to overcome the historic discrimination and hate which so many underrepresented people have faced, rather than exacerbate it." Austin was a civil rights prosecutor and served in the DOJ before joining Obama's team in 2014. In 2017, he went into private practice. In November, Biden named him as a transition team volunteer for the DOJ. Austin's appointment underscores how close Facebook is to the Biden administration. Former Facebook Associate General Counsel Jessica Hertz is his new White House staff secretary. Biden's coronavirus czar, Jeffrey Zients, served on Facebook's board of directors from 2018 to 2020 as well. And former Facebook program manager Austin Lin is now in the White House's Office of Management and Administration. In Roy Austin's role as Facebook's VP of Civil Rights, it's not clear what his specific responsibilities will be. Reporting by Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
And a group of tech investors and executives is joining the growing push to recall California's governor. That's as one announces a bid for the job. The CEO of venture capital firm Social Capital announced a run for governor on Twitter this week. He wrote in the post, "It's on," and included the hashtag referring to the campaign to remove Governor Gavin Newsom. His campaign websites call California a mess, citing underpaid teachers and underperforming school systems, describes a plan to cut taxes to 0%, give teachers a minimum salary of $70,000 a year, and dish out $2,000 for every new child born in the state. And still to come. Volkswagen loses its title as the world's largest automaker. Find out who's number one. And Tesla disappoints Wall Street over its latest quarterly profits, despite posting record earnings. More on that after the break.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format, where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled and political agendas have subverted media. The Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
Toyota has overtaken Volkswagen as the world's best-selling automaker. It sold 9.5 million vehicles around the world in 2020. That's 200,000 more than what Volkswagen delivered last year. While the rise to the top is good news for Toyota, doesn't mean it's out of the woods. Over the last year, the pandemic wiped out sales and disrupted supply chains across the auto industry, so Toyota deliveries fell more than 11% from the previous year, while Volkswagen fell more than 15%. And adding to that, car makers are now facing a shortage of semiconductors that could slow production. And Tesla disappointed Wall Street Wednesday. Its fourth quarter profit fell short of expectations, and the company failed to give a clear target for 2021 vehicle deliveries.
Tesla's posted record earnings Wednesday still disappointed Wall Street, posting adjusted income short of the $1.1 billion analysts had hoped for. Investors had also hoped to see CEO Elon Musk's electric car maker set a higher target for vehicle deliveries in 2021, but the company only gave a vague outlook, driving shares down 5%. It caps 12 months that saw Tesla's shares surge some 700%. Investors had bet on expectations that Tesla will quickly and profitably expand after setting a goal of delivering 500,000 vehicles last year. Instead, in a statement, the company did not state a concrete delivery goal. Under Musk's leadership, Tesla bucked the 2020 trend of economic upheaval with steady sales at a time when many car makers reported losses. Its success allowed Tesla to join the S&P 500 index, defying long-term skeptics who had bet against the company. Over the past year, Tesla ramped up production in China, though it faces local competition by the likes of NIO and XPeng. Tesla is also building new car and battery manufacturing factories in Texas and Germany. But the race is now on for car makers who are developing electric vehicles of their own to challenge Tesla's lead. Several car makers are slated to release new electric models this year, including Ford's Mustang Mach-E and Volkswagen's ID.4.
And Lowe's says it plans to hire more than 50,000 workers across America in the spring. It says it'll also pay frontline workers about $80 million in additional bonuses. It's racing to meet the demand for home improvement products, which have surged since the pandemic started. People stuck at home are spending more on minor remodeling, repair work, and spring is the busiest time of year for retailers like Lowe's and Home Depot. As when people catch up on gardening and other home improvement jobs after the cold winter months. And still to come, Amazon Echo unveils a new feature to help you safeguard your home when you're not around. Find out how it can ward off intruders after the break. And a student finds a new way to make paper. Now he's determined to make it a global business success. More on that when we return.
It's just clear as day. The media, whether it's broadcast, cable, or print media, has become extremely biased. And I started looking online for alternative ways to get information. And I saw an ad for a free trial. And I looked at it and I said, Epoch Times. I mean, come on, this is end of days type of stuff. I mean, what are they going to be talking about here? And I said, well, it's a free trial. Let me dig in. Is it giving me both sides? Is it giving me an objective point of view here? I have looked for opportunities to see where they might be biased, and I don't find it. It has given me a level of trust in media that I didn't think I'd ever get back. I love the Epoch Times because it has renewed my faith in the idea that a reliable, responsible, non-biased source of information is available. And I can say that I love it because of that.
If you want to protect your home while you're away, you might find this new Alexa feature helpful. You can set up your Amazon Echo speaker to make it sound like a dog's barking to scare off potential intruders. You can set the barking sound to be triggered when your outside security cameras send movement. The feature is part of a package called Amazon Guard Plus. It costs about $5 a month or $50 a year. You can also trigger a siren if there's activity inside. To set it up, you can go to Alexa app on your phone, and if you don't want to pay, there's also a free option. It turns your lights on and off to make people think you're home. And a Ukrainian student has invented a way to make paper out of fallen leaves. This new technology is eco-friendly, requires less water and electricity than standard paper. Here's the details.
Valentin Frechka's new technology is based upon extracting the fibers in a machine which turns the leaves into a pulp. This gets washed, then mixed with starch to give the paper smoothness and durability. The final stage includes drying the pulp into thin layers before forming them into paper rolls.
We managed to produce a paper from which we made our first bags. These are the first items we made with the automatic equipment. They have the same qualities as usual paper. It's possible to print on them. You can see our logo.
Frechka began the project by experimenting with leaves at home and school. He later patented his technology and brought in engineers to develop the equipment. In 2020, he founded an initiative called Leaf Paper. The paper is now used to make eco-friendly bags and egg boxes. Frechka is now developing his technology to make cardboard. He began in the Ukraine and is now targeting international markets. According to Leaf Paper, their technology requires 2 to 3 tons of leaves to make a ton of paper. That equates to saving 17 trees. Frechka says this technology is cheaper and better for the environment.
This technology is unique because we've learned how to use the waste that is generated annually, and we've learned how to turn it into a fibrous product that can be used for paper production.
Leaf pulp paper isn't a total replacement for wood pulp paper, but his process requires less water and electricity, and the used leaves aren't left to rot, which saves CO2 emissions. Frechka says he's determined to develop his progress.
That's the latest business updates for today. You can still catch NTD Evening News at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. But for NTD Business, that's all for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Hi, we're happy to announce that you can also catch us on cable TV now. Millions of households already choose us as one of their trusted news sources, and you can too. You can watch us in Chicago, Washington, D.C., New York, and many other cities as well. And if your system doesn't carry NTD yet, you can just give them a quick call and request NTD on your cable provider. Thank you for watching. See you next time.